Hey gang, this is the second of our three-part video series. We're talking about questions, frequently asked questions that I get that are actually not about the market, but more about me, okay? And at first, when I started this, as I mentioned in the first video, everybody was asking me, where's this stock gonna go? Where's this stock not gonna go? Where's the market gonna go? Now I'm getting a lot more questions, people asking me, Roger, tell us more about yourself. We wanna learn more about you. We want to, if we learn about how you developed as a trader, maybe we will be able to replicate that. And I appreciate that and I respect that. And I'm extremely honest with all of this. So the first question was, and again, I get probably 100 questions a day, so I'm phrasing this in a broad way. Your question might have been slightly different, but I think you get the gist of this. The first question was, what was the most painful lesson for me as a trader? And I answered that and I explained that it was a process of going and winning for several months and then just completely getting creamed by the market, you know? That balloon, just needle in the balloon and just an explosion. So the next question was, what was the turning point for me? In other words, what was the turning point where I knew in my mind, 100% with certainty, that I would become a professional trader in the future, where I knew that there was not going to be anything to hold me back? And let me answer that question. It's actually a really good question. What happened was this: when I first started trading, when I figured that the error of my ways was, I was looking, have you ever heard the saying forest from the trees? Some people look at the forest, some people look at the trees. Well, what I was doing was, I wasn't just looking at the trees. I was looking at the trees with a microscope. I was doing this. I had no idea about the rest of the market. When I was looking at a stock, I wasn't even looking at a stock. I was looking at the price action of the stock intraday on a 5-minute chart. I mean, I needed to pull my head out and I needed to start looking at the market from a broad perspective, from a wide to narrow analysis, you know, starting at the top, you know, top to bottom approach, like I teach my guys in my boot camp and in my training sessions and in my trade room. We start with the economy. We go into the stock market. We go into market internals. We go into volatility. We go into price action. Further and further and further. And we peel that onion. And what happens when you do it that way, you start looking at the market like it's a movie. Because you're doing the same thing every day and the picture changes slightly, but very slightly, so you're able to catch yourself whenever there's a big change. Doing it this way keeps you out of trouble. Let me give you a good example. A trader asked me on a webinar the other day, Roger, where's this stock gonna go? What's the price level you would buy? And you know, I said this in front of 1,000 people. I said, listen, what you're doing is the equivalent of asking me what my my phone number is, or my home address number is, my building number. Don't you want to know what town I live in? Don't you want to know what intersection I live in? Don't you want to know if there's traffic? It's like going somewhere without a map. You can't do that. So I'm diverting a little bit to another topic, but here's the thing. It all starts out with the fundamental picture, with first principles, with the foundation, okay? If you don't have a foundation to work with, you can't look at a stock. You got to look at the market, then you got to look at the sector, then you got to look at the industry, and then you look at the stocks, and so forth and so forth. So the process that really changed me going from a beginner or an amateur trader to a pro trader was being able to consistently follow that path over several years, over about 2 to 3 years, and refine it. And again, these things that I'm talking about, you can learn all about this in my boot camp or my trade room. We have several VIP rooms and trade rooms and boot camps. But the point is, you always start at the top or the bottom, depending on how you look at the market. But you got to look at the broad picture. So what really changed things was I developed an engine to gauge momentum. And I was able to apply that engine to sectors, to the overall market, to market internals. And that was my foundational approach. Once I understood it, and once I had issues with trading, I would always go back to that. It was like a security blanket. And it helped me out tremendously, and it still does. And it keeps me on the right side of the market. So again, if you want to plan a trip, all right? You don't just say, all right, we're taking the next plane. You don't just pack your clothes, jump, go to the airport, and just buy a ticket. And you don't do that. You rent a hotel room. You see if your kids are on vacation that day so it doesn't interfere with their school. You call your work. You take time off. There's steps for everything. And that's how the market works. There's steps for analysis. And once you understand those steps, that's when everything changes. And that was the major change for me. That's when I knew that I had a system, a method, a methodology that can look at the market step by step and give me that picture, that clarity that I needed. And that was the turnaround moment. That was the moment that turned everything and took me from being an amateur trader where I was like a kid in a candy store, looking at every little thing, looking at the hottest systems, looking at the hottest trends, looking at what's hot. That doesn't work. If you follow what everybody else is doing, you're going to end up like everybody else. You want to be different. You want to differentiate yourself from everybody else. Do it your own way. Remember, you can make money in the market thousands of different ways. The problem is finding those ways. You see the catch there? There's a million ways to make money from the markets. Now, I'm going to leave you with something important. You need two things to profit from the market. And I'm going to talk about that in the last video. Actually, that is the third question, and I'm going to cover that in the next video. Again, this is the second video of a three-part series on my top questions that I get from traders about me. Not about what the next setup will be, not about what the next trade will be, but about me and how I got into this and how I was able to go from an amateur trader to a fund manager managing almost $1 billion at a time. All right, we'll get into the next video. And if you guys like this, please, please, please subscribe to this channel. You'll get daily videos just like this every day and more.